everyone. Today I am sharing these cute little treat boxes. I made about 32 of them for my friends at On Stage. That was about a week and a half ago. However, I was silly enough to think that I could hand these out without including instructions, which I have been greatly corrected on that, as you guys are so curious on how I made these. So I decided to do something a little bit different by actually doing a video tutorial. I don't usually do these, so bear with me, and I'm going to show you how to go about making one of these pineapples. I'll take off the tag here so you can have a better look. This is the pineapple, and this is a faceted box. I was inspired by a larger box that held a wine bottle, I believe, on Pinterest, and it had these fun folds, and it was called a faceted box. So I decided to take the same idea but shrink it down and make a cute little treat box for my friends. So as you can see here, I have a template that I drew up. What I do to start out is I just continually trial and error, and once I come up with the idea and I figured out all the measurements and corrects, I make a template just so I can refer to it. So I will post this and you can see my template as well, but this is our the template that we're going to be referring to. So to start, we are going to start with a piece of cardstock. Daffodil Delight is what I used, and it is 6 inches by 3.5, and you can get 3 of these cut out of one 8.5 by 11 sheet. And you are going to want to keep your extra little bit so we can use it for the bottom of the pineapple. With that piece of cardstock, what we're going to do is we are going to score, and we're going to line it up with the 3 inches, and we're going to score at 3, move 1/2 inch to 2.5, move 1/2 inch to 2, all the way to 1 inch, so that you have something like this. You can see my lines there. So we have our horizontal lines in. So now we're going to want to mark in where our diagonal lines go, and we're going to want to mark 1 inch increments across our score line. We're going to want to do the markings on our first score line and our second score line. That being is that this top one with the 1 inch flap is our top flaps. We're going to make our flaps out of this top part, and this one we are going to make the bottom flaps. So if you want to reproduce a lot of these, I have a little trick that I'm going to show you. I made this template out of our grid paper, and what I did was I cut the 6 inches and then a little bit smaller than the 2. So instead of cutting right on the line or on the other side of the line, I cut within the line, and that makes it a little bit smaller. And the reason why I did that is I want to be able to lay it down on my piece of cardstock with my score lines. And I don't think you'll be able to see it in the video, but what this allows me to do, since it's a little bit smaller than 2 inches, I'm going to be able to come in here and mark these 1 inch marks. There we go. I'm going to, along the top score line, we want it to be on the score line, and then I'm able to go and put them on the bottom score line. So when we're done, you should have something like this. So we have our top markings and our bottom markings. So next, what we need to do is we need to score in these diagonal lines. And how I did this is I grabbed my piercing mat, a stylus, and just a ruler, and I scored them in. So the rule of thumb is that the top dot is going to connect with the bottom dot that's 2 dots over. So imagine that we have one, this is number 1. We are going to go start there and go 1, 2, so we know that this is the bottom dot that we want to score with. I'm going to put my ruler beside my little dot because I want the score line to go on top of it. Then just simply slide it over. Next one, same thing, is going to be 1, 2, so we know that this is the one that it needs to line up with. Now, as you can see, I'm scoring from the top line and I'm going all the way down to the bottom of my cardstock. That's okay because the bottom flaps have the same diagonal line where the top ones don't. So you want to score from the top of the line and go down, but never go above the top score line. This one would be, imagine that it was there, so it is actually lines up with the bottom score line. And then this one here actually lines up with the middle score line. Now you're going to do the same thing. This is our spot that's number 1. We're going to go 1, 2. So this is the one that we would line it up with. And you're just going to keep going along. And when you're finished, you will have a piece of cardstock that looks like this with all of our score lines on it. So from here, what we're going to do next is we are going to fold our top score line, and we're going to fold it away from us, or also known as a mountain fold. And we're going to fold this bottom score line, once again, fold it in away from us. All the horizontal score lines are away from us, or mountain folds. But why we just folded these two for now is because we're going to be making the tabs out of these two sections, and it's easier to fold them now than when we've cut up the tabs and have to fold them individually. So I want to make markings for where my tabs are going to be, and you might have noticed on my little template that I had some extra markings here, and this is my cheat sheet once again for marking my tabs. So each of the tabs is made out of a 1-inch square, as you can see, and when I went and figured out the pattern, I wanted each of my dots to be 1/4 of an inch in from the 1-inch mark. So that's what I've done on my little template here. I'm just marking 1/4 inch from all of those. Now you'll notice at the end I have these little X's on there, and the reason why is because we're going to cut that last one out, so I don't need to mark it. So once you're finished doing that, you should have a piece of cardstock that looks like this. We have our score lines, we have our 2 folded lines, and we have our tabs all marked out. So now it's time to cut. As you can see on my template here, we are cutting out a lot along the bottom, the side, and the top. Now you can use a ruler if you want to be able to cut out these tabs, but the Stampin' Up! Paper snips are long enough that you can just line up your blade with the 2 dots and then snip it. It doesn't need to be perfect. This part is going to be closing our box, so you don't need to worry about it being exact, and you just keep going along that way. When it comes to this end part where we need to cut off this big section, you're going to want to cut it off on the other side of the score line. So in other words, so we don't see the score line, because when the container's put together, it's going to fold around and over top of this. So cut it without the score line, and then same with this one, cut it before the score line. So in other words, you don't want the score line in there, and then cut your tab. These bottom tabs don't matter, they're going to be covered up, so you can cut them on the score line, over the score line, as long as you have some tabs sticking out that allows us to fold up the cardstock, or roll it up, I guess I should say, then you're fine. When we come to this part here, we want to cut with inside the score, well, I guess, yeah, inside the score line. In other words, we don't want the score line there, because this is going to fold, this is going to roll into a tube, and we're going to integrate these little pieces into the pattern. As you can see, it blends into our pineapple instead of being a clear seam. So you're going to want to cut these without the score line in there. You're able to, once we fold it, you're able to trim it again. So, but when you're done, you should have a piece that looks like this. Now don't worry about these marks. Obviously I'm using pen because I want you to be able to see it on camera, but you would go ahead and use pencil. But also these are going to be on the inside, so you don't need to worry about it. Also, I went ahead and I punched the hole. It's about 1/4 of an inch down from the top and just in the center of my tabs, and that's a 1/8 hole punch. So from here on in, I'm not going to have the magic of TV, it's done. I'm going to put it together with you. So as I said previously, we want to fold all our horizontal lines in away from us, or into a mountain fold. So we've already done that with our top and bottom. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that again. So once again, I'm folding it away from me. Then the next one, folding it away from me. I keep moving the template. And the next one, I'm going to fold it away from me. So now we have all of our horizontal lines folded. Now here's the part that makes all the magic happen with these fun little folds. These diagonal ones are going to be folded towards us or into a valley fold. So you can actually just leave it flat and fold. Each time bringing it towards me or doing the valley fold. Now we did the one set of diagonals, now we want to do the other set. It's always good to use your bone folder, get a nice crisp fold there. And last one. There we go. So now, as we curve our box around, you're going to see that, voila, we have that nice fold. Those nice little faceted folds. So as I said before, we are going to glue our seam in, but instead of having just a straight line like this, which I could have done, we could have done it this way, I decided to cut it and integrate it with the pattern. I just thought it would be a better look. So on the inside of your container, I took some multi-purpose glue, Tombow, and I put glue on these 3 squares. Well, I guess it's a square and then 2 half triangles. And then I brought it over to the side and stuck them down. Can you see that? Am I in? Yes, I am. Okay. Stuck them down into the design that's already there. So now we have a nice clean seam that kind of plays in with the design and isn't a complete eyesore. You'll want to give that a couple minutes to allow it to dry. So now we have it rolled into a tube and we need to put the bottom on it. So remember, this is our top and this will be our bottom. Now to close up the bottom, what I've used are a 1 3/8 circle punch. I used 2 just because I was making so many of them and the last thing I really wanted them to do was to break open at the bottom. I'm pretty sure that with the proper glue it will hold fine with just 1, but if you're like me and would rather be safe than sorry, then I would suggest putting the 2 on there. And to put the 2 on them, I put 1 on the inside and 1 on the outside, and I'm going to show you how I went about doing that. I took an old pill bottle and I placed my first circle on top of it, and then I added glue to it with the multi-purpose glue there, and then all I did was open up the flaps and slide it down over top, and then when I got down to that, I just folded them down onto the glue. Don't worry about it if they're not going to stick, because what I did then was simply take another circle, added my Tombow to it, folded these down and stuck it on top. This is the time that you're going to want to play around with it. Make sure it's evenly distributed. Then I simply let that dry. And now we have our bottom. So next up, I wanted to make the little top to the pineapple. And what I made that with was the daisy punch. Here we go, in Old Olive. And I actually attached this to my container so that they don't have to worry about any pieces that are left off. So I looked to see where my seam is, just because we don't really want it to be in front. So what I did is, here's my seam. So I put it on one of these flaps at the front, And all I did was take the daisy punch and do that 1/8 hole punch right in the center. I'm gonna add some Tombow, maybe. There we go. Around it. And then I'm going to glue it to the top of my tab. And of course we're gonna let that dry. Like so. So of course at this point you would fill it up with your candy and we would want to close it. So to close it I use this lovely daffodil ribbon, which I believe is still continuing. I took about 8 inches, let's see here, yeah, about 8 inches, and I folded it in half, and then I simply tied a knot at the end. Let's see how well I can do it on video here. Okay. So I'm left with a little hoop here. Now from the inside of your package here, so where we can see our little markings, and the one right next to your top there, you're going to take the end of the hoop end of your ribbon and we're going to feed it through this hole. Pull it tight, and there we go. Then I'm going to take the next tab over and I'm going to feed it through. And you're going to want to make sure that each time you pull it all the way through. And continue on through each of the tabs, making sure each time I've pulled the ribbon through. Now we're here to the end with the topper on it. I'm just going to do the same thing, pull it through, and voila, we have a nice closed little package. The next, what you do is you just take your petals and we're going to pull them up. And now we have a cute little pineapple. Now for the tag, I won't go into details and all that because I don't want my video to be too long. But this uses the fruit basket stamp set. And I have no idea what die that is. I can't even think of a name right now. I'll put it in the information. And then I took the baker's linen thread, and I hooped it through the hole. And then to help my pineapple leaves stand up, I tied it around the greenery on my pineapple. And of course then I just tied a bow. And there you go. So that's how you do this cute little pineapple box. I think it's going to be great because it actually could be used to introduce one of the new colors that are coming out, which is Pineapple Punch. So take a look in my post. I'll post the template and all the materials used in today's video. If you'd like to see me do more videos on different tutorials, leave me a message. Let me know if I did good or bad or what I need to change. And of course, I always welcome support by purchasing through my online webpage. Well, that's it. I hope this helps you out and see you later.